Pretty Girl Club. Oh my gosh, I'm super excited for this series. It's going to be a social climbing series. I know that I've already made videos on this, but I want to do a deeper dive into social climbing so that we can go deeper into talking about this. What is social climbing? Why does it matter? How do you know if someone is trying to social climb? Is social climbing bad? I'm going to address a lot of those things today because the way my content works is the more videos you watch, the more you will build upon the information. That's really how I set up this YouTube channel. It's set up like a library. So you want to make sure that you have good definitions and good premises to work on so you can build from there. So think about that word social. What that really means is human interaction. Anytime somebody uses words like social climbing, sociology, society, what they mean is interacting with individuals, interacting with people. A lot of people have ambitions and they want to kind of like live their destiny. But if you think of how that works, your destiny and all that, it's brought upon you by people. So if you apply to a certain college, a person from the college is going to look at your application and accept or reject you. If you apply to a job, there's going to be a person that will work at HR or some sort of hiring manager. So sociology is all about human interactions. Even that phrase, social justice, anytime somebody is social justice warrioring, remember that it's always about social status. Because if it wasn't, they wouldn't use that phrase, social justice. Notice how they didn't say criminal justice. They didn't say a different form of justice. No, they said social justice. What that means is I want the same social status as XYZ person. I want the same compliments, the same validation, the same dating options as XYZ person. A lot of times when people talk about social justice in terms of things that have to do with looks, such as colorism, texturism, featureism, lookism, aka pretty privilege, what they're talking about is the social status that you receive just based on your appearance. So how do people treat you in the grocery store? So for example, let's say you go into a grocery store and you get followed because the person is racist. That's an example of a negative social interaction. That person's racism caused you to have a negative social encounter based on how you look, based on how you are perceived by that person. And so the whole concept of social climbing on this channel, it's not just about like trying to get famous or something like that. Although if you want that, then that's fine. But for a lot of people, social justice is really related to social climbing in the sense that they want to have positive, everyday interactions. So I want you to think about your life. What kinds of social interactions do you want to have on a daily basis? So for example, when you walk into a grocery store, when you go to the gas station, when you go to work, when you're on the train, how do you want to be treated? All of that has to do with how you're treated in society. I don't like when people, they try to over-intellectualize everything they're saying. They'll be like, well, how am I treated in society? You mean, how are you treated by strangers? That's really all this is. Society just means strangers on the street. That's literally what it means. It means strangers on the street. It means everybody and their mama. How do you want to be treated by everybody and their mama? That is where social climbing comes in. So there are certain things that you can do to your appearance or to your mannerisms, or there's a certain way that you can carry yourself so that you can receive the types of social interactions that you want. Why do people tell you to go where you're celebrated? Why are they saying that? They're saying that because that's a social climbing strategy. Going to a place where your appearance is celebrated. Because think about it, what does that even mean? Go where you're celebrated. What that means is go where your physical features are celebrated. Go where your personality is celebrated. Go where your culture or your background or your language is celebrated. So when I talk about social climbing, what I'm really talking about is finding different ways to make sure that you are perceived how you want to be perceived. So for example, I know that when it comes to this whole bonnet discourse with people talking about how you shouldn't wear a bonnet in public or how you shouldn't wear pajamas and stuff in public, the reason why people are saying that is because for some people, when it comes to their social climbing goals, they want to be perceived as maybe more professional, or maybe they want to be perceived like some sort of princess. And if you think about princesses, they don't walk around in their pajamas. And so that's why they're saying that. They're saying it as a social climbing strategy, but what I've noticed is that a lot of people, they don't tell you that that's why they're saying it. And so the first thing that you want to do if you have a goal of social climbing and receiving the type of social status you want, The first thing you have to do is restore your relationship with social status. A lot of good girls, whether you're religious or whatever, a lot of those types of women have been taught that social status is bad. Having social status, that's bad. Being perceived as pretty or prettier than someone else, that's bad. And of course, I know that pretty much everything in our society is bad. What else is new? No shit, Sherlock. Of course we live in a society that's bad. But does this mean that I'm supposed to go crawl into a hole and die? What am I supposed to do? I want to survive and thrive in this world just like anyone else. And the only people that guilt you about wanting to be treated with respect, the only people that guilt you are people who want you to be at the bottom. Those are the people that actually want you to stay beneath them. They will tell you social climbing is bad, or not everything is about status. Not everything is about how you're perceived. Yeah, of course, not everything is about how you're perceived, but there are some people who don't want to be followed in stores. They don't want to feel invisible around their friends. They don't want to feel like they're at the bottom. They want to feel like they are a princess. Social status means how people perceive you. It means how people view you. This means the amount of respect that people put on your name, the amount of respect or admiration you get treated with. Have you ever noticed that whenever people talk about pedestalization, they never define what a pedestal is? A pedestal means that you get treated with respect. It means that you get complimented. That's basically what a pedestal is. So anytime somebody tries to guilt you and say, so-and-so puts you on a pedestal, well, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. I would hope that you want to hang out with people who are encouraging. I hope that you want to be around people who see the best in you and people who tell you you're beautiful, or, they contribute to making you feel beautiful. And another thing is that the reason that people fight over pedestalization and the reason they shame you if you are being put on a pedestal is because that person does not have a sense of self-esteem. Because remember, there's a difference between self-esteem and compliments. Compliments, the reason that they are called compliments is because they are complementary. They are complementary to the self-esteem that's already there. That's why it's called self-esteem and not compliment esteem. It's not called pedestal esteem. No, it's self-esteem, and that should be kind of the basis of your self-image. Like, you should have a positive self-image. And then when other people tell you in the grocery store, oh, you're pretty, or they tell you on Instagram or on a DM or something, you look pretty, it's supposed to be a compliment. But for the women who are lacking in both self-esteem and they're lacking in validation, instead of focusing on how to build their own pedestals, they're actually too busy focusing on the pedestals of other women. And those types of women, they don't know how to social climb because they feel guilty about it, or they are too prideful. They feel like, oh, I don't need to social climb. I can wear pajamas 24/7. I don't ever have to wear makeup. Oh, no, that's fake. I'm above that. I'm never going to wear makeup. I'm never going to dress up. I'm only going to wear pajamas 24/7. And they think it somehow makes them more noble, or it makes them like a better person. And by the way, if that's how they feel, that's totally fine. But for some of us, like the women on this channel, we enjoy positive social interactions, okay? So we like how easy it is to move through life. I do kind of believe that it's almost like living life on easy mode in some scenarios, as long as you're not dealing with jealous women. That's a different thing. That's called pretty girl problems, not pretty privilege. But social climbing means working on yourself so that you can receive the type of treatment you want. It's about working on yourself so that you can be perceived in the way that you want to be perceived. Social climbing is supposed to help you to not be misunderstood so much. Or at least on this channel, that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to help you to be seen how you want to be seen, to be treated how you want to be treated. It's supposed to help you to have more positive interactions in your everyday life. So yes, that means at the grocery store, that means at the bus stop, this means at work, at Starbucks, no matter where you're going, you want to be treated in a positive way. It's about stacking up positive social experiences, because for some women, instead of privilege stacking, they're actually trauma stacking. So some women have a lot of traumas attached to maybe their physical appearance, or, they just have a bad self-image. So they literally feel like their physical appearance is a disability, or like it's a social handicap. But over here, we know that regardless of how you were born, you can do certain things, whether it's to yourself, whether it's to your appearance, or if it has to do with your mannerisms and how you carry yourself, you can do things so that you can have better experiences in terms of how you're treated in everyday life. Another frequently asked question is, why is social climbing important? Why does it matter? Well, it matters because if you are not experiencing positive interactions in your everyday life, that actually leads to a sense of isolation. It can lead to social anxiety because maybe you've only been in environments where you're not celebrated, so you're not socially strategic. You're not going to environments where you're celebrated. You're staying around your toxic family members. You're staying around toxic friendships and stuff. So, not social climbing actually sets you up to be abused. And so it's very important to move strategically. It's very important to only stay in spaces where you are valued and only stay in places where you're obviously treated like a decent human being. So, for example, let's say somebody was racist and they followed you around in a store. I would tell you, don't go back to that store anymore because obviously that's not going to help you to be treated in the way you want to be treated. Obviously, you would want to social climb and find somewhere else where you are being celebrated and valued. And then I would also tell you to leave a bad review as well. But the concept of climbing, social climbing, it's about climbing out from being at the bottom, quote unquote. It's about getting out of this rut that you're in. It's about getting out of that hole that you've been in for the past 20 years or feeling invisible. It's about having the social life that you want to have, having the social status you want to have, and also having the everyday micro validations, not microaggressions, micro validations that you want to have. It is very possible. And it's something that's a lot easier than what people try to tell you online. The next question I want to address is, where can social climbing be done? Is there a specific way to do it? And I will say that social climbing is not a monolith, so it can be done anywhere. You can social climb at the grocery store. You just want to think, where do I want to be treated nice? For me, I want to be treated nice everywhere, at the grocery store, at the gym, at my apartment, around my family, around my friends. So the first question you want to ask yourself is, where do I want to be treated nicely? How do I want to be treated? So think of somebody in your mind who you feel receives good treatment in life. You know how they call it the princess treatment? What that means is those are women who want to social climb into being a princess, kind of like being a real life princess. So what they're saying whenever they use that terminology, princess treatment, they mean that they want to look like a princess. They want others to think they look like a princess. They want to be treated like a princess or doted upon. They want to be valued. They don't want to spend a lot of time doing all this hard work and labor because they didn't say they wanted to be treated like a slave. No, they said they wanted to be treated like a princess. So you can actually create social climbing archetypes in your mind, just like how we do with the beauty standards. You can create social archetypes of how you want to be treated. Do you want to be treated like a hot girl? Do you want to be treated like the popular girl? Do you want to be treated like a Barbie doll or like a princess? So I want you to think while you're watching this, think in your mind, what kind of status do I want? How do I want to be treated in my everyday life? Do I want to be treated like a queen? Do I want to be treated like a peasant? Do I want to be treated like dirt? Oh, okay, so I want to be treated like a princess. Social climbing is when you ask yourself questions like, okay, what type of social status does a princess have? When I think of a princess, I am automatically thinking of someone who has pretty privilege or someone who's very pretty and well put together. So that means that one of your social climbing steps, your social climbing feminine homework, is going to be to increase your pretty privilege, whatever that means to you. So if that means putting on a nice shirt that complements your skin tone, then go ahead and do that. Another question you would want to ask yourself is, where do I want the princess treatment? Because like I said, for me, I want the princess treatment, especially when I'm doing my everyday tasks. That's actually the most important to me. I need my princess treatment to work at the grocery store, at the gas station, at the car wash, wherever I go. So another question that I like to ask myself is, for example, let's say I want to social climb at the grocery store. I want the princess treatment whenever I go to the store. The first thing I did was I picked my favorite grocery store. I personally love shopping at very classy, high-end grocery stores, especially in the nice part of town, because I just feel like that fits my vibe. It fits the social environment that I want to be in. That's another part of social climbing. You have to think to yourself, what types of people do I want to be around? I've talked a lot of shit about Walmart on here. I'm probably messing up my future sponsorships, but whatever, shout out to Walmart. One thing that I don't really like about Walmart is I have had multiple bad customer service experiences when I go into Walmart and try to shop. Half of the stuff that I want is locked up behind a piece of glass. So then I have to stand there and try to call someone or get somebody to come and help me just to purchase some makeup or something. And then I go and stand in a super long line. And so then I'm like getting annoyed. I'm like trying to get my cart around the corner. Sometimes people are like bogarting you with their carts. There's a baby crying in the background. That's not the type of social environment that I prefer. And so that's something else you can think of. Let's say you want a social climb at a grocery store. What social status of grocery stores do you want to even shop at? Like, what is your vibe in terms of groceries? Are you a farmer's market pretty girl? Are you a Walmart pretty girl? Are you a Target pretty girl? Or are you in a situation where your finances are not allowing you to shop at like Whole Foods? Because that's what happened to me. So what I did was I actually just picked up a side hustle, and then I made sure that I had the money to climb socioeconomically so that I could afford to shop at Whole Foods, because that's another part of social climbing. It's socioeconomic status. That's why they didn't call it economic status. No. They made sure to put socioeconomic status because they want you to understand that that word, what that means is that you have both the social status and the economic status combined. And so that's another question you want to ask yourself. What type of grocery store represents the socioeconomic status that fits my goals? Even if you don't have the money to do all of your grocery shopping at Whole Foods, is there a way that you can budget some of your money? You know, you can create your own little pretty girl budget, and maybe you get your main stuff from Walmart, but maybe you save $50 a month to be able to go to Whole Foods. That is still a form of social climbing because you are familiarizing yourself with the type of social environment you want to be in. So yes, social climbing can literally be done in something as simple as a grocery store. By the way, I love going to the grocery store. That's actually one of my hobbies. It's become one of my hobbies now because I love going to different like meat markets and stuff. I love going to cultural grocery stores. So if you are multiracial, or even if you're monoracial, let's say you're white or something. I've got a lot of white girls on here. I've got a lot of Asian girls on here. So even if you are like a non-black person and you want to learn more about a particular culture, you can go to the Mexican grocery store. You can go to the Asian food market. By the way, oh my God, I love the Asian food market. They have really good produce there. So that is something you can ask yourself. What grocery store represents the socioeconomic status that I want to have, or what grocery store represents the social environment that I want to be around? Do I want to learn more about Asian culture? Okay, let me do a little fun pretty girl homework assignment, and I'm going to go and get my produce from the local Asian market this weekend. So that's another example of social climbing. You are strategically placing yourself in the environment you want to be in. So instead of going to the racist grocery store, or instead of going to a grocery store that makes you leave in a bad mood, which for me is Walmart, so it's actually not worth saving the money because I am mentally harming myself just so I can save a couple of dollars. I'd rather spend more money and have a positive social experience and receive micro validations in the grocery store. By the way, the grocery store is a very basic place where you can start off receiving micro validation. And when I use that term, what I mean is you're receiving good customer service. People are nice to you. Maybe the checker is really nice to you. Maybe they give you a coupon. Like I've had people give me like a free coupon or something. Even if I don't have the phone number, like I'm not a member of that store, maybe they will type in their phone number and then I'll get a discount. Those are all examples. Those are small examples of social status and social privilege. So yes, I know that you might not think that it's a big deal because, you're a part of the Pretty Girl Club. You've been pretty your whole life. You've had this type of status your whole life. But there actually are people out there where they get treated like trash. Maybe the grocery store person doesn't even say hello. They just start checking their stuff and then they throw their shit over to the side and then they start breaking stuff or cracking the eggs and stuff, and then they just throw it in the bag and basically tell them to get out. Social climbing is about stacking your privileges, stacking your validations, and also let's talk about that word privilege because it's a very triggering word, especially for people who feel underprivileged. So for me, I'm a fellow woman of color myself. So I understand, though, that everybody actually has some form of privilege. It could be socioeconomic privilege. If you live in the United States, have a seat because you are by far one of the richest people in the world. Even if you are lower middle class or like underprivileged in the US, you are still extremely privileged in comparison to underprivileged people in other countries. So, social climbing is actually about looking at the things that make you who you are. And also, number one, starting off by being grateful for whatever it is you happen to be born with. And yes, privileges are bad. Of course they're bad. Our whole society is bad. Capitalism as a whole is bad. So are you telling me that I can't go grocery shopping now because capitalism is bad and people are being abused on farms? Like, of course it's bad, but I did not create the society the way that it is. I have no choice really but to survive and thrive and help myself and then help my family. And then once I have successfully social climbed and I have the type of social power I want to have, then I can change the world from my high position and, then I can work on all of that stuff. But until then, I will be utilizing whatever survival tactics and finesse tactics I need to use so that I can get into the position I want to get in life. But the reason I'm talking about grocery stores in terms of social climbing is because the grocery store is somewhere that everybody goes. It is somewhere that you can play around with your pretty privilege. So for example, I like to think to myself, okay, how do I want to be treated? What type of grocery store makes me feel high status? I mean, I'm just being honest. This is what I think. What type of grocery store makes me feel classy or high status or cultured? Oh, okay, so I like going to the fancy meat market. Okay, I noticed that I like shopping at Whole Foods. It makes me feel healthy because the brand of that grocery store aligns with who I am as a person. I like the brand of Whole Foods. I like how they try to promote whole foods. I don't like going into a store where everything is processed and then I just got my produce from Walmart. Then when I cut open my lemon, it's brown and rotten on the inside. And then some fruit flies fly out of the fruit. I don't like that. By the way, that happened to me before with Walmart food. So the brand of that grocery store, even though I like their prices, it doesn't quite align with my social climbing goals. It doesn't quite align with my validation goals. And so for me, shopping at Whole Foods or Trader Joe's or some fancy meat market or something, or like a fancy grocery store in my city, that helps me to feel a sense of validation. And notice how I have not said anything in this whole entire episode. I've said nothing about men up until this point. So yes, something as simple as going to the grocery store that I've always wanted to go to, that helps me to feel like I am social climbing because it's actually contributing to healing a trauma that I may have had as a child. So a lot of the stuff that I talk about is for the purpose of healing childhood traumas. So let's say you had a childhood trauma of poverty. Maybe your family only went to the food bank. Maybe they only shopped at Walmart. Part of the way that you can overcome that is by purposely not going to the food bank. It's by purposely going to the grocery store that you used to put on a pedestal. Because anything that you used to put on a pedestal and now you are a part of that thing, now you get to be the one shopping at Whole Foods, now you get to go to Trader Joe's, that actually helps to heal some of the trauma that you may have experienced as a child. Or at least for me, it helped me to feel rich, if that makes sense. It helped me to feel like I am getting closer to reaching my goals. And I'm not telling you to overspend. I'm not telling you to like go broke or anything, but something as simple as being in that environment. Sometimes I don't even buy anything. Like I have driven to like different meat markets and stuff and different ethnic grocery stores just so I can look around. So you don't even have to buy anything. You literally can do this for free. So let's say on your train ride home, there's this fancy store that you've never got a chance to go into and you've always wanted to look in there and see like, okay, what kind of deli meats do they have? What kinds of produce do they have? You can just go there and browse. You actually don't even have to buy anything. And just being in that social environment that you like, that is a form of social climbing. You know why? Because you strategically positioned yourself to be in the social environment that makes you feel good. So another thing you can take into consideration is what neighborhoods do I associate with a higher socioeconomic status or a higher social status? So let's say you like Walmart. Let's say you don't have a problem with Walmart. What you can do is you can try to go to a Walmart in the beautiful part of town. Let's say you live in a bad part of town. Go to the Walmart in a nicer part of town. Do they even have Walmarts in nice parts of town? No offense, but like maybe they do. I don't know. If they have a grocery store that is very affordable to you, but it's in the nice part of town, that's another way that you can social climb because you're thinking to yourself, what social environment do I want to interact in? What part of society do I want to interact with? Remember, society, that just means humans. It means people. It means human beings. So what types of human beings do I want to be surrounded by? Do I want to be surrounded by a bunch of obnoxious human beings? Do I want to be surrounded by a bunch of classy, pretty girls and people who make me feel good? Because part of why I like going to really high-end grocery stores is because I actually get inspired when it comes to fashion. Every time I go into Trader Joe's, so Trader Joe's is not my top, but it's one of my top 5. I would say Trader Joe's is probably in my top 3. The reason that I don't go there to do my main grocery shopping though is because of the lines. I don't like the long lines. I feel like it's just kind of annoying sometimes, especially if the line wraps around the entire store and it's going out the door. That's happened at Trader Joe's where I live before. But for example, what types of girls and guys, I guess, do you want to be around in the grocery store? This is all a part of your social climbing process, and it's actually fun because you can think, okay, in a perfect world, what would my grocery shopping experience be? Okay, it would be like I get to go somewhere where there's plenty of parking. That's another reason why I like the high-end grocery stores. There's more parking there. Another thing that I like about the high-end grocery stores is seeing all of the beautiful cars in the parking lot. Yes, something as simple as being in the car parking lot of the grocery store and seeing all these pretty Range Rovers and pretty Teslas and pretty Cadillacs or whatever car you like, Lexus, Mercedes, that actually is a form of inspiration to me. So yes, I'm being dead serious right now. Going to the exact grocery store that I like literally serves as a source of inspiration for me. So that is absolutely social climbing. I'm putting myself in the environment where I want to be. I'm putting myself in an environment where I'm experiencing positive emotions. So something as simple as going to a beautiful part of town, looking at the gorgeous palm trees or mountains in the background, or, whatever your prettiest part of your city looks like, tall buildings, I don't know, penthouses, and then going to the beautiful grocery store, parking in the nice parking lot, seeing all these beautiful cars driving by, if you're into cars, that actually is a small form of micro-validation because I am reminding my brain, I am actually sending a subconscious message to my brain that, hey, this is my environment. This is where I belong. I belong in the parking lot with all the Range Rovers and the Mercedes. I belong in the parking lot with all of the girls in the high heels and stuff. That's another part. I'm actually going to get to that in a second. But one thing that I like is walking into my favorite high-end grocery store, and then I see tons of other pretty girls there. And then I've noticed that they all look like me. And when I say look like me, I'm not talking about race. They'll be of all different races, but they all have a similar look to me. And what I mean by that is they will be wearing their little high heels. So for example, actually, I'll tell my little story time. So today I went to my favorite high-end grocery store. There is a coffee shop that's like connected to the grocery store. And I remember I went to the parking lot. There were all these beautiful cars there. I saw these other pretty girls there. There were beautiful black women, white women, Asian, whatever, and they all had their cute little cars. And then I saw some other girls as I was pushing my cart to go inside. There were these other girls. They were all in shape, and they all had on these adorable like tennis outfits. Like you could tell that they just got back from the tennis court, and that was inspiring to me, like looking at their cute outfits and thinking to myself, oh my gosh, that is so cute. Maybe I should get myself one of those cute little bra tops where it matches the skirt. That's cute. I like going into a grocery store and being flooded with positive thoughts. That's an example of subconsciously training your brain to validate yourself. That's what I mean when I use that term, the soft life, because when I go in the grocery store, I'm thinking soft life thoughts. So when I walk into the high-end grocery store, I'm thinking about what tennis outfit I'm going to wear versus when I walk into Walmart, I'm thinking about, oh shit, she just yelled at me and then somebody just hit me with their cart. And so what I mean by social climbing is putting yourself in a social environment where you're not going to be overridden with anxiety. If I'm in a bad neighborhood, I actually experience more anxiety because let's say there are guys hanging out in front of the grocery store, they're soliciting me. There are creepy guys lurking around my car. I don't know what's going to happen with my car. Is somebody trying to break in? There's a homeless guy panhandling across from me. So the types of thoughts I would be thinking walking into a bad grocery store versus the types of thoughts I'm thinking in a social climbing setting that I set myself up to go into, it's totally different. So that was inspiring today when I went to my favorite grocery store and I saw girls in these cute tennis outfits. Another thing I noticed was that all the girls, or at least about 80% of them, they all were in shape. And part of it is because I like going to stores like Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, I've noticed has a lot of other pretty girls and stuff, and just like these high-end delis and stuff. So I didn't feel out of place. You know how like sometimes maybe you'll go into a store and you feel like you're super overdressed or something because maybe you just look pretty? And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. I would rather be overdressed than be underdressed. But one thing I liked when I went to my favorite grocery store is that I was surrounded by other women who looked leveled up. So yes, technically you don't know. I mean, I guess they could have technically been leveled down, but I liked being in an environment where the cars in the parking lot represented leveling up, or at least attempting to level up. The women in the grocery store, I didn't have to deal with dirty looks and people like purposely rolling their eyes at me and shit, or at least not as much at nice grocery stores versus the bad ones. Another part of why you can social climb at a grocery store is because what I like to do when I go grocery shopping is I like to mosey around the aisles. So yes, I'm one of those annoying people that will look and see what kinds of chocolate bars they have. I'm going to look and see what fruits are in season. I want to look and see what the bakery has going on. So yes, I'm one of those people that can spend like over an hour just in the grocery store. And so if I'm at a store where it's kind of known for like quickly getting in and out, kind of like more of a Walmart or something, where it's like you just hurry up and get in the line, get in the self-checkout and get out, that's not as good of an experience for me. Another thing I've noticed too is that being around a bunch of children in the grocery store, like crying children and shit, sorry if you have kids, I happen to be child-free, that also annoys me. And I've noticed a pattern where when I go to Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, or a high-end, kind of more expensive grocery store, there are way less children. In fact, there are rarely any children that I see in those grocery stores. So I don't know if it's because of the price point, maybe families with multiple kids, maybe they can't really afford to go there as much. And by the way, this is not a diss towards anybody's social status or their kids. But that's a part of social climbing that I enjoy. I like being in an environment where there are more adults. It's very peaceful for me to be able to slowly walk around with my cart and wear my high heels and stuff. And there are no children that are like running around and then I'm like getting scared that I'm going to hit the child with my cart. So I like that about the high-end grocery stores. Another thing that I enjoy doing, and this is a part of social climbing as well, is experimenting with or utilizing my pretty privilege at the grocery store. So I've talked about this over on the Patreon. Be sure to join the Patreon or the members page. But I like to wear my cute little high heels. So right now I'm trying to break in all of my high heels for summer, like all of my sandals. So what you can do, let's say you want the princess treatment, which is what I like to have as well. So I like to dress like a princess. I associate princesses with wearing high heels. You don't have to follow anything I'm saying, by the way. You can just do whatever works for you. But I like to wear some little comfortable heel. It doesn't have to be like stilettos or anything, but just like it could be a kitten heel, a wedge heel, some sort of, even the flip-flops. They even have flip-flops that have a heel or sneakers that have a cute heel, depending on your outfit and kind of depending on what you were doing before you went to the grocery store. But today when I went, I was just at home before. So I just slipped on some little basic leggings, just basic black leggings. I put on a basic spaghetti strap shirt. And then I put on my little high heel sandals. They're like these sandals that have a small heel on them. So yes, you're going to hear the pretty girl clicking noise as I'm walking. And then I just put on a little hair clip. You know how they have the little clip-in ponytails or like a clip-on half up, half down. So I did my little clip and I just put on some very light makeup, just like the sunscreen. You know how they have like the tinted, I think it's called BB cream or CC cream. I don't know. I have one of those. It's like a sunscreen one though. And so I just put that on, a little bit of lip stain, and I felt very pretty. And I did not feel like I was overdressed or anything because number one, that's how I'm trying to dress just in general. That's how I like to dress. I like to play up my positive features. And also, you guys know that I'm working on my posture as well. And so heels, they naturally correct my posture. By the way, social climbing tip, what types of high heels work for your foot? That's very important. So like when I went to the shoe store, I tried to test out different types of heels. Do you have wide feet? Do you have narrow feet? Do you have high arches, low arches? Because different women's feet fit into different types of shoes. So you might be wearing high heels that are uncomfortable for your particular foot. I know that for me, stilettos are not as comfortable as like all the other high heels. And so with my stilettos, I have to save those for if I'm going to be sitting down. So I can wear stilettos like to dinner, maybe if I'm going to a movie or somewhere where I'm going to be sitting down the majority of the time. But if I'm going to be walking, like at a grocery store, I'm going to be out and about, I need to specifically wear heels where I can walk in them for a long time. Because if you go grocery shopping, oh, this is another social climbing tip. I like to count my steps, like I have one of those step counter apps on my phone. So if you go grocery shopping, like I'll go shopping and I will have walked 5,000 steps because I went grocery shopping. So that's like a mile or something like that. So you want to know what types of shoes or high heels or beautiful feminine shoes that make your feet look like a princess. If you want the princess treatment, whatever you associate with a princess wearing on her feet, it doesn't even have to be heels. It could be ballet flats, it could be whatever. But whatever shoes you associate with that, you want to make sure that those shoes work well with your foot. So I have these little low high heel sandals, and that works well with my foot because it's comfortable. My toes are out, so my toes are not being crushed by like these pointy, those pointy shoes with like the pointy tip? Those are cute. Don't get me wrong. Those are super cute, but those crush my toes sometimes. So I know that I cannot wear those if I'm going grocery shopping. But when I'm talking about social climbing, let's say your social climbing goal is to receive the princess treatment or to feel like a princess at all times or to receive pretty girl treatment. Well, what grocery store makes you feel like it would be where a princess would go to? Because another thing that happened when I was just walking around with my cute little heels on and stuff was I felt very feminine and princess-like because number one, I fit in perfectly with the environment. So let's say you live in like California or something like that, and maybe you like to go to the grocery store in Beverly Hills. Okay, well, what positive stereotypes do you have of Beverly Hills culture? So social climbing for me, it's about thinking of positive stereotypes, positive associations. So you know how I said like with Whole Foods, I kind of like their brand a little bit better because their brand is more focused on whole foods, kind of like healthy foods. So that is a positive stereotype that I am placing upon the Whole Foods store. So that's another question I ask myself. What positive stereotypes do I want to be associated with? So I was in my pretty girl grocery store. I was walking around. I had my heels on and I had my hair cute or whatever with my little casual outfit. But because I had on the little high heel sandals, it kind of dressed it up just a little bit and made it look a little more, I guess, feminine and princess-like. So I was walking around with my cart and I was receiving a lot of micro validation. So for example, people looking at me and smiling. So that's a form of positive micro validation versus a microaggression, which would be somebody scowling at you or they're following you because, maybe they're racist or something. It's the exact opposite. So I'm going into an environment where I feel celebrated. So yes, something as simple as a lot of people glancing at me or smiling at me, yes, that actually makes me feel celebrated in a positive way. Like in a very small way, it's a form of micro validation because it's kind of like a micro expression on the person's face, but that's a positive experience. Another thing that happened was I was going to the cafe because there was a cafe next to the store. And like I was trying to get a fork because I got myself a piece of chocolate cake. Yes, I know I should have got something healthy, but whatever. So I got a piece of chocolate cake really quick and the fork dispenser wasn't working. So this one guy who worked there, he runs over and he's like, "Oh, excuse me, ma'am, like this is how you do it." Like he ran over just to get me a fork because he saw me from across the cafe kind of struggling and like looking for where to get the fork from. So that was another positive source of micro validation because I was noticeable and because I don't know, he probably just saw me or something. He came and went out of his way to help me. So I got to enjoy my piece of cake and I did not have to wait until I got home to like get another fork and stuff. So I got to have my little snack while I was in the store. That is another form of being treated how I would like to be treated socially. I enjoy when customer service workers go above and beyond and they go out of their way to serve me. Yes, I feel like a princess in that moment. I feel a little bit more pampered. I know it's on a micro level, it's very small, but that is still a form of micro validation versus at Walmart, nobody helps you. You're standing there waiting for 15 minutes and then you walk out of the store because nobody is there on the walkie-talkie. Nobody responds. Nobody answers. So they'll say, "Oh, somebody will be here in a minute," and then you're just left standing there wasting your time. Another thing that happened at the grocery store, this is actually the second time this has happened, is where men will comment on my cart. So, like, you know how you're pushing the cart, you have like some stuff in it. I tend to eat a lot of produce, so fruits, vegetables, salads, all of that stuff. So, this is the second time that I've gone to this particular grocery store with my little feminine outfit on, and a man has walked up to me and commented on my grocery cart. So, actually, this is the third time. This is the third time it's happened. So, the first time it happened when I was in the vitamin section. There was some unambiguous black guy in there, and he's like, "Oh wow, you eat really healthy," you know, that sort of thing. And then the next time I was standing in line, you know how like when you're standing in the checker line, they have this divider that you put on the little thing, and it divides your groceries versus the other person's groceries. So I put the divider down, and I was putting my groceries on the little checker thing. And the white guy in front of me, he was like, "Oh, your stuff looks really healthy." And then he was like, "Have you tried this strawberry stuff that they have over in the produce section?" So this guy, because I was noticeable, this guy actually went out of his way to talk to me in a friendly manner. So this is another reason why I tell you guys to memorize where you are celebrated and where people are more friendly to you. Because let's say you would have gone to a grocery store where there are a lot of women who are jealous of you or something. Maybe you have a bad history with that particular store. Nobody's going to give you the tea on that grocery store. Your experience there is probably not going to be as good. So at this grocery store, I am always treated like a princess. So the guy in front of me, he was giving me all the tea. He was like, "Oh yeah, on this day, this is when they stock up on their strawberries. They have these special strawberries here where it's supposed to be kind of like the sweeter version of the strawberries, and it's right next to the blueberries." So he was telling me all this stuff about the grocery store that I would have never known had I not just randomly stood in the line, and then he just turned around and noticed me and started commenting on the type of stuff that I get. So another thing that happened today was I got my stuff from that same grocery store so I could make my own charcuterie board. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It's more popular in kind of the white culture as opposed to African American culture. But anyway, so I had my charcuterie stuff, and the guy in front of me, he was like, "Oh, have you been to the meat market over here?" And I was like, "Oh no, I didn't know there was a meat market over here too." And he was like, "Yeah, if you just walk across the other side, they have a meat market where they have those exact meats, and they can actually cut it for you fresh so that you don't even have to buy like the packaged one." So once again, that's another instance of me being treated in a princess manner, because now I received even more information about the social environment. So that's actually a form of social climbing. I went to a grocery store where I feel more, I guess, respected, or for lack of better words, you can call it pedestalized, I guess, because receiving compliments, I mean, that's really what people mean when they say pedestalized. It just means you receive compliments. So I receive a lot of compliments on my cart, like the types of items that I buy from the store, which tends to be healthy items. But also, that guy was giving me insider information about where to purchase a cheaper and fresher version of the same exact meat, or like where to get more variety of stuff for my charcuterie board. So now the next time I'm going to go to a new part of the store, which is like the meat market area, which I never even tried. And that's something that I don't believe would have happened if I would have gone into the store like looking all disheveled, looking like I didn't even take a shower, breath smells bad, teeth are yellow, I have a mean mug on my face. I don't really think that I would have had people like going out of their way to talk to me as much. And then another thing that happened was when I was at the store again today, so I left my phone in the basket. I've done that before multiple times. It's really bad. Unfortunately, I have had my wallet and my identity stolen before like that. So I left my phone in the basket while she was checking me out. And then the girl who was bagging the groceries, she was like, "Oh, don't forget your phone. It's over here in the basket." So that is something that actually helped me. That's an example of receiving a helpful behavior versus a couple years ago when I went to the ghetto-ass grocery store, when I happened to make a mistake of leaving my wallet in my cart, or I think my wallet actually fell out of the cart as I was pushing it. But yeah, someone actually stole it. So today, somebody could have stolen my phone, but she did not steal my phone. She just helped me, and she was like, "Oh, this is your phone." She also was an unambiguous, monoracial, dark-skinned black woman. So no, I don't think everybody's jealous. But no, she actually told me that my phone was left in the cart or whatever, and she made sure that I had it. So that's another example of being in a social environment where I am treated like a princess? Do I feel like they're treating me like that because they think I'm better than others? Well, the bottom line is, I guess I technically don't know. I mean, maybe. But even so, I can't control who people think is cuter or uglier, or, you should hand her phone versus you should not hand her phone. You should talk to her in line versus you shouldn't talk to her in line. So instead of occupying my thoughts with comparing myself to others, I have learned how to occupy my thoughts with soft life thinking, meaning where can I go where I feel pretty, where I feel respected, where I feel valued, where I feel like I fit in, where I feel like the vibe of the place matches the vibe of my mindset. And so another thing that happened was, as the girl was checking me out, there was a different girl checking me out. There was an unambiguous girl bagging the groceries. Then there was like an Indian girl who was checking me out. And then she checked me out. She was very kind and friendly. And she was like, "Oh, you're so pretty." So that's an example of another micro validation. So do you see how I just named like 5 or 6 micro validations? I talked about feeling inspired by being in the parking lot and being around the pretty cars and stuff. That's an example of living the soft life. And that, in my opinion, that's what social climbing is about, or at least for me, it's about getting into a social environment or a socioeconomic environment where you feel the most carefree, where you feel like you don't have to worry, you're not anxious, kind of looking over your shoulder like, oh crap, I've got a jealous woman over here, and then I've got this mean lady over there. So you get to decide for yourself, what social environment do I want to be in? So that was my example of social climbing, with something as simple as going to the grocery store. I believe that social climbing should be practical, and every time I go to the grocery store, or at least that particular store, I have had positive experiences, and I can talk more about it probably in upcoming episodes, but I've utilized this social climbing skill at the grocery store, when I go to the park, or when I go to certain trails, when I do any sort of shopping, whether it's clothing shopping or, I don't know, going to get makeup and stuff. I like to go to the actual makeup store to get my makeup. I don't want to go to Target, even though Target does have some of the same stuff. I prefer to go to a makeup store with makeup professionals because I like how I am treated better in the actual Sephora or Ulta, because they have people who specialize in those things. And then especially if there's someone with my exact skin tone kind of like in the aisles and stuff, then that causes me to be helped even more. So social climbing is something that's actually very practical. It is something that you can utilize in everyday life. It doesn't have to be hard. You can start off doing something as simple as going to a grocery store where you feel celebrated, or where you feel that store aligns with your values, or it aligns with the social status that you want to have. Even if you don't have the money right now, that's okay. You can go in and browse. You can go in and look around. You can go in and see if they have any sales going on. Sometimes they have like little coupons and stuff you can get at the front. But what do you ladies think? What does social climbing mean to you? Do you like going to specific grocery stores? Do you like to social climb when it comes to the spas that you go to, where you go and get your nails done? Do you like to only go to the nice nail places? What do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.